Hi everybody, welcome to this episode of the Lavaca County News Review podcast. Now, join your hosts, Murray and Michelle, as they bring you the news from all the newspapers in Lavaca County, Texas. Okay, Murray and Michelle, take it away.
Hello everybody, this is Murray back with you for this edition of the Lavaca County News Report. This is for the July 26th and 27th editions, and I'm doing a solo today that my partner Michelle had to be out, had some things to take care of, so we're flying solo, so we'll get right to it. Now when you receive today's paper, if you haven't already, you'll find the Discover magazine in there, and it's quite a neat little magazine. It was put together by our managing editor, Bobby Hariska, who wrote most of the stories and most of the pictures, and the production and layout was done by Richard Stone. Now, this thing is, it's over 50 pages, and it's got everything in it. It's got schedules, a little bit of history about every town, and covers every town that our newspapers cover, Hallettsville and Shiner and Yoakum and Moulton. But we're just going to cover the basic parts of the front pages and maybe something about sports. Before we get on with that, be sure and take a look at that Discover magazine. It should be in your paper, and it is just full of information about this county, history, and just there's more there than I can tell you about, but you sure need to look forward to it. Everybody had anything to do with this, did an awesome job. And their credits will be, I believe it's probably on the inside front page of the Discover magazine. So we'll get on with it, going to Hallettsville Tribune-Herald, and our senior reporter Jimmy Apple has a story about the court approving a policy regarding comp time hours. And our managing editor Bobby Hariska has a story about George's Park and its pre-Jamboree party over in Moulton. This is George's Signs, George Colosic. And if I've mispronounced that, George, please forgive me. But it's an interesting story that Bobby wrote and tells all about the event, about George and about his sign painting for 5 decades now. So you need to check that story out. And our senior reporter, Jimmy Apple, has another story about the Moulton Jamboree, which is coming up this Saturday and Sunday. And our newest reporter, Clayton Kelly, has a story about a Yoakum native's art being featured at a Victoria museum. So, check that out, folks. And we can't get out of the Tribune without talking about our little buddy, Henry Joe Hank Yashek. And Henry Joe's got a new trivia question. What 2 U.S. states have 3 sets of double letters? The double letters of one state are 3 sets, consonants, and the other state has 2 sets of consonants and a vowel. So, check Hank out. He's got quite a bit of information now in his town chatter. And I'm scrolling down through the pages now, looking at this on my laptop. We have a letter to the editor, just all kind of stuff, Hallett Oak Gallery. But we're going to get on now out of that down to our sports so we can run on through this and get on to the other papers. We have the Kinesics join other Texas 4-Hers on a global tour of Spain. And that looks like that would be mighty interesting. Now we're going to jump into the Hallettsville Tribune-Herald sports page with our senior sports editor, Chuck Groff. And Chuck writes that when the headline is Fall Workouts Begin Monday. So what we've all been waiting for is we have a new head coach. And Chuck says Levi Montgomery has taken over the Hallettsville Brahma football program. And he will inherit 7 offensive and 7 defensive starters from Coach Tommy Pensek's era. So the Brahmas will practice from 7 a.m. until noon. And Montgomery expects 65 to 70 prospects. And over at Sacred Heart, a new era begins with Alex Sadler at the helm. So you need to check out Chuck's stories about our 2 high schools and the football programs He's also got schedules, got the varsity schedules, and just a ton of information. So you need to check Chucky out. As usual, he does a great job. And with that, I think we're going to jump on out of this, and we've got a lot to cover. And so we're going to go on now. We're going to move on over to the Shiner Gazette. And on the front page of the Shiner Gazette, we have Jimmy's story about the Lavaca Hospital District Board meeting. And we have something about the Shiner students attend Boys and Girls State. Got a 5-column picture of those kids and a little write-up about that, so you need to check that out. And let's see, and we also got that story about George's sign shop. Our managing editor did, Bobby Hariska. So you need to check that out, folks. And we're scrolling down through the papers, and we have a big ad about the Moulton Jamboree that's coming up this weekend. And we appreciate all of our advertisers. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't get a paycheck. And we certainly appreciate that. On page 6, you'll find a complete story about the Moulton Town and Country Jamboree. It's this weekend, and this story is written by Jimmy Apple. So we're going down to Shiner Sports, and here's another name I can't pronounce, U-L-C-A-K, Ulak, something like that. Forgive me again if I didn't pronounce it right, but it's about this kid that's going to be playing baseball and continue a baseball career at University of Houston at Victoria. And our sports editor, Mark Lube, wrote this story. And let's see, I should pronounce the name right. It's Luby, not Lube. And he's got a story about former Coach Jackson returning to Shiner Catholic School. And he's got a story about all the fall sports that are cranking up over in Shiner. So be sure and check that out, friends. And we, as usual, we appreciate all these ads that we've got coming from Gonzalez Healthcare and what have you, and Patek's Grocery. We appreciate you, folks. We really do. Thanks a bunch for supporting this paper. We're going to move on over now, friends, to the Yoakum paper, the Yoakum Herald-Times, and they've got 2 of my columns in here. They've got my recent column about my experience with Texas gators, alligators, and I don't know, you might find this interesting, but I had some close calls with them over the years. And then we have a staff report of the DeWitt County 4-H'ers braving blazing temperatures to bring the heat at the state shooting contest. You need to check that out. Our newest reporter, Clayton Kelly, has a story about the Yoakum Economic Development Corporation. And then our senior reporter, Jimmy Apple, has a story about the court approves policy recording comp time hours, which we already had. And DeWitt County has a burn ban. Clayton Kelly wrote that as well. We're going to scroll on down. We have meetings and events, Vacation Bible School cranking up. Just all kind of stories. In Lions Club inducted 2023-24 officers and directors. So you need to check all that out, friends. They do a great job over there. You folks over there in Yoakum really ought to be happy that you have such a great hometown paper. That's just about it. We got more stories about the Yoakum Bulldogs and about the upcoming fall sports preview and the Bulldogs will be included. Check it out. Go by and see Nadine and all the rest of the folks over there, Allison. They do a great job. So with that being said, we're going to jump on over now to, as my buddy Hans Lammerman used to be my co-host on this review, he always called Moulton the cleanup batter. And that's not to take anything away from Moulton, because they do an awesome job over there. We got the story again by Bobby Hariska, our managing editor, about the post-Jamboree Friday party that they're going to have over there. And the Jamboree has Bobby has the 2023 royalty that has been chosen. He's got some beautiful color pictures, and I'm going to have to renege a little bit on that because Clayton Kelly took the photos. And Clayton also wrote the story about the Moulton ISD gearing up for the new school year. So good for you, Clayton. Did a great job. And then Jimmy Apple, our senior staff writer, has got some more information about the Jamboree and the events, and he's got them all listed out. We have my story about the Texas Gators in here again with a picture of a big gator eyeball. That ought to scare you to death if nothing else does. And on page 3, we have the Catholic Daughters Awards scholarships to Cecilia Fiac, and I'll probably pronounce that wrong, and Kaylee Trejo. So congratulations to them two young ladies. And we have a story about the Czech Heritage Miss pageant that was held on July the 22nd. And we have a story about Lavaca County 4-H record book participants, and they stood out at district. Story about the fall 4-H shooting sports, family reunions, and classifieds, and just more information about George's sign shop over there and what he's got planned for the upcoming Jamboree. Before I go, folks, I want to ask you one more time to be sure and check out the Discover magazine that is in your newspaper this time around. They did a good job on that one, and I know I said it before, but you really need to check it out and give us a call. Let us know how you like it. And I hope Michelle decides to come back with me next week. You know, she seems like she's been ignoring me ever since she had Chuck on with her, so I don't know. Maybe I'll just have to let her have Chuckums permanently. Anyway, friends, thanks a bunch, and we'll see you on down the road. Goodbye, everybody.